All right. Well, it's good to see you.
Thanks, Clarence.
Thanks so much for coming out here, Mark. We wanted to just do something a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people meeting people. You know, I know that we both have roles and responsibilities in our community. But basically, what those roles and responsibilities are is that we meet people where they're at, and we support people where they're at, and we walk with them. And it's pretty much where we're just people helping people. So I thought it would be pretty awesome if we could just sit out here as Clarence and Mark and have a little chat and reflect on our journey and the things that we've done and the places and spaces that we've shared.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor to be here. It's a beautiful day. I know we're indoors for all weather, but no, it's truly an honor. I'm so grateful you welcome me, welcome us here, and look forward to the conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I just want to reflect on the first time I met you. And today I was actually going home and I was trying to find the card that you gave me a few years ago. And it was at the Fennings. And I remember the first time I met you, I was on the way out to our second site. Jen introduced us. And something just resonated with me that you were different and that you were very outgoing, you were very welcoming. There was no us and them. It was just like, hey, hi, my name's Mark. Here's my card. And I feel kind of bad because I put that card away and to just reflect on that time in Crowshield Lodge's history. It was a very dicey time at us in that summertime because we were just facing some bylaw stuff.
Yeah.
And there was so much going on. And then I saw that you were getting elected as our chief. And then I went back and I found that card to see if it was the right guy, and it was. So then I had to do some little backpedaling, just to make sure that that we reconnected again, because I knew that I kind of let that one fall to the wayside just because of what was going on in our life at Crowshield Lodge at the time. But I want to say, you know, congratulations again. It's amazing seeing you and the connections that you're making in our community.
Well, I appreciate it. Time finds us, you know, when it does. So, but it's funny. I remember that moment, you know, seeing you. But the truth of it is, I've sort of been a fan of yours for a long time.
Okay.
I was dating back when I started policing. It was important to me to volunteer for different organizations. So I was with Out of the Cold for a number of years with supportive housing, and then even getting to know House of Friendship. I sort of saw your rise in the community over years. And I remember one time where, like, you could see you emerging as a helper, as a bit of someone who was well respected. But I have two young boys, and I do remember one time that they came home from school and you had visited their school, and they talked about Clarence, this guy who came and told stories, sang to them, and had your drum. And it was a powerful moment where I remember you were solidifying yourself as a leader in our community. And to hear their reverence for you was powerful to me. And then to see what you've established here, some of this has come full circle. And, you know, it's amazing the connections you've made, the established roots you've put down for so many. And so I've sort of intersected with you from the side, but to come, you know, now that we can share some moments and some things together is pretty cool.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. You know, that place in that space, that school where I used to work with those little spirits, meant a lot to me, you know, and I always used to say, even in my book that I wrote, I don't think I'll ever be ready to specifically work with children because they're so unpredictable. And I just would always find myself resonating with men and meeting them where they're at. In reflection, that was the beginning of me starting to find my path working with that next generation. Because now at Crowshield Lodge, we're doing forest schools and we're working, we're doing them like 3 seasons out of the year. So I think it's time that we start working with that next generation, and that's our role and our responsibility. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, it's I've seen a lot of change over my career. Organizations have, risen and sometimes fallen, and leaders come and go. But I think you're building something here that is sustainable, that's going to last. And I also know about you, you're looking at that next generation, that vision for building the future. And I've listened to you a number of times talking about taking the time to get it right.
Yeah.
And no matter where we are within this region or as a society, it's going to take generations really to get to where we need to. And I think for you having the courage to walk with us, we had you at our opening of our building.
Right.
And we just opened a new police division. And I know that that may raise some eyebrows, for some to see your partnerships, but I see your openness, wanting to welcome everybody, to a place of understanding, but also what can we establish as common ground, and then what can we build together.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for mentioning that. There was a bit of flack, but that's normal. That's normal. But we did exactly what you shared. Mm-hmm. We wanted to model that we were doing the best that we could do for the community.
Yeah.
We wanted to show how Indigenous and non-Indigenous people can come together. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to show how Indigenous and Waterloo Police Services could come together. So thank you for trusting us and bringing us in and letting us see that building and just have that honor, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's all about us modeling how we can move forward. And we've never been here before. Mm-hmm. So like even today, we're making history, and we're doing history a lot in our community lately.
Yeah.
And that's why I always like to have this, the tail feather of an eagle. They use their wings for flight and to keep them up. But this is all about direction, right? And we've never gone in this direction before. So we need to have the strength and the vision of the eagle to help us, And I think it's amazing that that we're doing things like this. And it is the right time.
Yeah.
It is the right time that we come together. I could say that maybe 5 years ago it wasn't the right time. But now it's the right time to really open things up.
Yeah.
Open things up, and we're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes are going to be made, but we can make those mistakes together. That's the way that I think. That's the way I feel. That's the way I hope it's going to be. But I look at this, and we look at this as a time of opportunity.
Yeah.
How we can figure things out, how we can look at things a bit differently. But if we always do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we've always got.
Yeah. So you brought us together, and whenever we've met, I'm struck by your presence, and I think you're regarded as a leader in our community. But since assuming this role, and I've been within policing about 22 years, in every role that I've had, the expectations go higher, mm-hmm. and people expect us to have answers.
Right.
And I find, being as honest as I can be and being as vulnerable as I can be too, I probably have more questions than I have answers.
Right.
And I don't know if you can appreciate that or agree that that's a challenge too. But it's also a place of privilege that I have right now in this role is to question things, to question ourselves, to question the direction of our organization, of our people. But then to do it in partnership with others, I think that's where the power comes in.
Yeah.
And I know we have a lot of reflection on that. And there's a couple things I hope we get to today.
Okay.
I might save them as we go.
All right.
But since you've seen Crow Shield strengthen, broaden, you have a wide reach, maybe just tell me where you are in terms of today, but also what's the vision for things moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that. It's where are we today? Well, after tomorrow, I'm going to take about a week off just to detach, go to Lake Huron and just get realigned for a bit. Just to step back, because we've been going hard since June to the end of September. We've secured this second site. We've been at this site now at Kent Sealing Museum for just over a year. We've been in conversations to look at two other sites. One is at the top end of Waterloo, and the other one is by the 401 and the Dune area. And if those conversations go well, we're hoping to establish 2 more land-based sites like the one we have in New Hamburg and like the one we have here at Ken Sealing Museum. And then we're also looking to source and maybe find some land to build a healing lodge where Indigenous and non-Indigenous people can come together and heal. That's where we're at right now. And the thing with this, Mark, is that it's all about time, but there's no rush. There's a need to speak about what we're going to do and what we hope to attain, but there's really no rush because we want to use the turtle as our template, where the turtle doesn't go and zigzag and it's not fast, but it goes slow and it goes straight. So that's what we want to do with finding these locations, finding these relationships, because if we rush into things, we could make a mistake, and we could be making a decision that is really not going to be the best for those 7 generations that are coming up behind us. Because at Crowshield Lodge, that's all we're doing right now is we're trying to be the best ancestor we can be today. So that's having meetings like this, opening places and spaces, and then going to places that have never been crossed before. So I think it's a time of opportunity. Also saying that some people are ready and some people aren't, you know, to have discussions like this or to move things forward. And we're aware of that, and that's totally okay because that's society as a whole. But what we're really trying to do is just bring people back to the land. And share with them things that have really helped us and been really beneficial to us, and help them answer 3 questions about who am I, why am I, and what is my purpose in life. That's where we hope. That's where we're planning on going. We've had opportunities to pivot a bit, to look at housing, to look at other things, to look at hospices. Those are on our radar, but I think we really need to stay focused on establishing 2 more sites so that we have 4 sites, 1 in each direction, and then we've also secured property for the healing lodge.
Amazing. I mean, this is where your shared friendship and wisdom means a lot, because you're centering me on slowing down,
right?
Taking a breath, and time, and I'll confess, I mean, the phone, the demands of the day, it has me kind of whirling around the clock.
Right.
And again, it's all from a point of privilege that I get the vantage point on one organization in this amazing region. But everything is rushed, you know. So for me, for us to come to take a breath, I know we've talked about, you know, developing some connections where our people can be part of this, you know, can be part of the slowing down, the reflection, and then your 3 questions are incredible. And it's the simplicity that we need, right? Those 3 questions. And it's funny, we actually speak about those in our organization.
Amazing.
But from a policing lens, right? And so this is where the complexity comes in, and I was thinking about today, what would I have to offer, you know, just in conversation, and a lot of it is reflection and, again, the learning that has to happen for me, for us. And I've been thinking about how I came into this world of policing. It doesn't define me. It does, you know, you put the uniform on, you wear something, it's symbolic, have a job to do. But there's a sense of purpose, there's a sense of duty. But there's also a legacy of complicated things. Right. We know the harm that is attached to policing in this country, the history of legacy of trauma, and we could spend all day on that.
Right.
But to use your language, we kind of need to sit with it, right? If we're moving forward at all, then I think that's something that I and we are really focused on is we can't move to the next steps of progress unless we really ground ourselves in that history, and then also respecting where everybody is. So I said there's a few things I wanted to get to, and we'll probably slowly get to them.
All right.
But it's just that sense of obligation and purpose and duty that I feel is get it right now, but knowing that it's going to be for those next generations of people that will follow me in the organization, that it'll be a better path if we get it right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And we might not get it right off the
Yeah.
bat.
Yeah.
You know, and I was talking to my partner, Nicole, about today. She says, Clarence, it's like full circle. And you know what? I really didn't look at it like that, but she's correct. You know, my whole life has been full circle, and this is another moment, another time where I get to complete that circle, but in a really good, positive way, because I've had many interactions with the police, and reflecting back, all of the negative interactions have been my fault, and alcohol has been a contributing factor. I was sharing with some people that I got a speeding ticket last summer. The first speeding ticket I got in over 30 years.
Wow.
That's what even the OPP officer said. He said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you something?" And I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" He says, "Do you remember the last time you got a speeding ticket?" And I said, "No," but I said, "I bet you it's 30 years." He goes, "Yeah." Saying that, I was so calm. I'm in a different place, in a different state of mind, and I know that this is work that needs to be done. You know, it's not about us and them anymore. It's about what can we do to lay those foundations, so that by the time we're not here,
Yeah.
it'll be there. The hard work will be done. It still has to continue to be done, but at least we've done it. So I think that's amazing, and I just wanted to say that, you know, from you coming to our fundraiser, right?
Yeah.
Amazing just to see you there, to see you mingle with people, to see all the diversity in the room.
Yeah.
And you're still there. And then the book launch, you came to the Northwind Man book launch. Amazing. I couldn't believe that. But it makes me feel so good that I can do whatever I have to do, and then I can look around and I can see you there, or we can have a conversation and just like, okay, I just need to come and chat with you for a while, just to slow things down, and then get realigned, and then I go back out and do what I do. So I think it's just amazing. And then that canoe trip. What about that canoe trip?
It was fantastic. Yeah. I was talking to some people. Not only was it great to be out, on the water, I was with somebody I hadn't met before for whatever it was, 3 hours.
Yes.
And it showed my level of fitness, because it wasn't grueling, but it was a commitment. But then you and I shared a bus ride back,
Right.
to the park, and it was just great to be with you. You talked about your family, you talked about your daughters. We talked about, growing together, what we could do. So it's funny that you mention those events where I've been, because I remember being so proud to say, I know Clarence. We don't have a strong, deep history, but we know each other. And but there I was in uniform, right, and very friendly and familiar and comfortable in my own setting. But I know that being there in uniform at your events, celebrating you and Crochet Lodge, is not easy for everybody. So maybe we can talk about that.
Sure.
Because I understand what we're trying to do is we're trying to come as we are, because I can be here today comfortable, but it's important, I think, whenever we can, is to challenge perceptions of police as something other than people trying to do our best. And so whenever we're invited to be in uniform, we try to show up and just to be present, but then to show our humanity and whatever bridge and conversation we can build. But maybe you can speak about that for you, but maybe how some others are still challenged by that, and that's something I fully accept. Yeah.
I want to challenge the norm. I want to do things differently, and I want to start bringing people together that have never been brought together. And I want to do it in a way where it's done in a good way, in a right way.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you and I and what we're trying to build, what we're trying to model, what we're trying to establish, and those fractures that we're trying to rebuild, and those bridges. And I'm trying to do that in a way where we come together as equals.
Yeah.
You know, we have roles and responsibilities. We have roles and responsibilities, but we're still people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still people helping people.
Yeah.
So that's why it's great.
Yeah.
It's great to do things that are differently. Yeah, it shifts people,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes so much courage. It takes courage for you to want to do what you're doing, to want to show people how to model that, and it takes courage for us to do what we do. But if we're both using courage, we're coming together at it from good lens,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I would have never have thought that I would have been smudging a new police building,
Yeah.
right? Like, that would have been the farthest thing from my mind. I wouldn't have even written about that in my book because it's not here.
Yeah.
But if it's the right time
Yeah.
and it's the right place and space, things align and it just happens.
Yeah. It was special to have you and Ben there. You looked great.
Thank you.
Ben looked good too, and but I mean, when I think back to that day, there was a lot happening. We had years of people working on a project, like putting a building together like that is complicated. We had a badge ceremony where we were welcoming 19 new officers to our organization. We had the Premier of Ontario, the Solicitor General, but my deepest memories are of you, and your words and your presence, and how you drew, you draw people to a quiet when you speak. People listen, and that is something that will be a lasting memory for the opening of that building. And again, trying to do it right and trying to ground it in, something that's meaningful. So that meant a lot, and we look forward to whatever those intersections can be moving forward. But it kind of gets to that building was a courthouse.
Yes.
For many years, for decades, and it has been transformed. It's now bright, but there's a lot of legacy there, right? Mm-hmm. And so, if you'll allow me, I mean, the plans that we're trying to make. We're rooted in connections to, the path to reconciliation, whatever that means,
Right.
Whatever that is. We're hyper-focused on a couple things. One is we know the history of policing and what it has done and what it has been in this country. But we also know the legacy of Indigenous people in connection to the justice system, incarceration, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and so our everyday work is rooted in trying our best to be so mindful of the legacy of trauma, and how we, as an organization, as an institution, continue to perpetuate and continue some of those legacy pieces.
Right.
But then trying to, as humans that have come into a system, and come into a place in the world where we're all hyper aware of what's happened.
Right.
How do we move it forward? So if I think about a legacy, to leave everybody pausing and thinking, reflecting every day about those things, but then getting to a new sense of what justice is. I think that's where we want to go, and I want to talk more about it, but I mean, even for you, knowing that you're there at an old courthouse that's now a police station, but it actually belongs to the community.
Right.
Right. And so I think that took some courage for you to be there. But moving forward, you and everyone else are going to define how that space is used.
It was refreshing to walk in and do that. You know, I supported many people in that courthouse. I've talked in that courthouse. I got triggered so bad in that courthouse because I was speaking in a drug court at the beginning of my journey. And I was shaking and I was so scared. But then I walked right into the courthouse, into the courtroom, and I said, I'm going to tell you how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, and what I need to do. I said, I'm feeling anxious and scared right now. And I see that door and I want to run, but I need to tell my story. And then everything just slowed down, realigned, and then I started speaking. That building is amazing. It's an amazing building. Yeah, there's lots of legacies. There's lots of history, good and bad, you know. The same as us.
Yeah.
The same as us. And it's all about the past. It's about learning from the past. Not getting stuck. Don't stare at it. And then how can we move forward together in a positive light, knowing what we know? When I think of something new, I always look at, you know, in the court systems with the Gladue reports, how those are connected to the Indigenous people.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be some officers or a team that are specifically, I don't know, but if we look at something new, the possibilities are endless. We have a clean sheet to work with.
Yeah.
The whole thing about walking, supporting, and knowing Indigenous people is knowing the history. Knowing that history of what they've been exposed to, the original people of this land. Some people will want to be invested in that history, and some people will say, you know what, that's not my generation. That was a long time ago. My family didn't have anything to do with that. So there's all of these intergenerational dysfunctions and things that are still happening that are going to take 8 generations, 7 generations to repair. But we've only gone through 2 generations. So there's still like 5 more generations where we have to sit in that, learn it, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
And then what about these? I'm sure there would be Indigenous police officers.
Yeah.
Right? That could be that bridge, could fill that gap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, you've hit some important things there, and we do have some of our members that, you know, certainly identify and are proud of their Indigenous history, and we're trying to leverage, you know, those connections, those identities to help us to bridge. But we also hope that every member of our organization, you know, can reflect on what it means to be anyone in this country, right, in this province, in this region, and the one thing that, you know, I'm not much of a reader,
Right.
like but one of the most powerful books that I've read in recent years was, it's called Peace and Good Order by Harold Johnson.
Okay.
He was Cree, and he passed away just a couple years ago, but he was a Crown attorney.
Okay.
And he was a defense lawyer, and in that book he talks about those legacy issues, but it's almost an apology for what he feels is his role in the criminal justice system and what he feels is harm that he was part of. But it's all about trying to find a new sense of justice in this country and how we move towards restoration, restorative justice, because our people, you know, they're called upon to solve problems, to show up, to help people in need. Oftentimes, you know, if an arrest is made and we're triggering that connection to the criminal justice system, we do our part to gather evidence and to put the problem and the case forward. But what happens beyond that, you know, we contribute, but we don't control. I think some of the foundations that you're laying down, and we need others, is to build, how do we build other opportunities, you know, for new forms of justice. There's a legacy in this region on, you know, restorative practices.
Right.
But I feel like we're stuck.
Okay.
I do. I feel like there's still silos. I feel like there's still some I don't know, maybe it's agendas, maybe it's just not knowing what to do, how to move forward. But if we're going to build something together, I think that's something that we could do as a community, is to build new forms of justice to help to alleviate the harm, to get us all to a better place. Because the systems that we have right now are continuing to replicate the same outcomes. So to your point about courage and about trying new things, yeah, I want to declare to you that I'm up for it.
Okay.
I know that our people are up for it, and it starts with conversations.
Yep.
But then it's the actions and the commitments. And if I have any grand declaration to you, as a person is, I didn't take on this role for anything other than to want to make positive change.
Nice.
That's it. And if I can't do that and be courageous in my way, then I shouldn't be here, and I shouldn't be sitting here today.
Right.
So I welcome your approach to things, and I'm so heartened to see how you're bringing everybody together, but it's not easy for you, right? You got broad shoulders.
Right.
But it's the highest compliment I can give is to say, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep bringing us together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we're good at, right? It took me a while to figure that out, what my gifts were, and then how we can really bring Crow Shield Lodge to the community to offer something where everybody's invited.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mandates. There's no regulations. There's no stipulations. Come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we ask. And with that, we're starting to make some really cool connections, build some really good relationships. Restorative justice, yeah, I think it's great. We got to focus on the youth.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's focusing on that generation. They've become too dependent. Some have become too dependent on the conveniences of life. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so many conveniences of life. And I've become dependent on them too. I've been fortunate enough to find balance in my life where I can come out to the land, and I've worked that into what Crow Shield Lodge is. I think bringing those youth out to the land,
Mm-hmm.
Getting them in circle, getting them by a fire, talking to them about what they need or what's lacking in their life, or maybe processing some of those hard times in their life so they can leave it behind and they can move forward. Mm-hmm. But we need those mentors, we need those teachers and those people who will invest their time not only in them but in us. And I always have to go back to that, to thank all of my teachers, all of my mentors, all the people who have believed in me and spent time with me and taught me the things I know, because I don't know much, but what I know I share, and I wouldn't know anything unless it was from all of these individuals who have instilled their time, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? It's time that begins everything, because we believe that's the best gift we can give.
Yeah.
So if we can take some time out of our lives to come together as police services and Crow Shield Lodge,
Mm-hmm.
and try to find a new way, establish some new pathways to bring these youth out to the land, and pair them up with elders
Yeah.
who have been there, who have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the environment. Sometimes the environment means the most thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the circle process that we do is so beneficial too,
Yeah.
right? Because we have men, we have women, we have elders, we bring the youth in, if they've strayed off that path, the thing that we don't do is we don't shun them, we don't push them away, we don't judge them or categorize them. We surround them as family and community, and we take them back out to the land, because this has everything we need to get realigned as Indigenous people, and non-Indigenous people are really starting to find the benefits from coming out to the land. You think differently, you hear differently, you feel differently. Before you know it, everything just starts to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're just trying to do, slow things down.
Yeah.
But look at new ways of doing things and establish new pathways
Yeah.
that haven't been done before. And I think it's great that we're doing it with the region.
Yeah.
Allyship. We're in the truth part of Truth and Reconciliation. Allyship is alive and well in our community, in our region.
Yeah.
This site is because of allyship. Site 1 in New Hamburg is because of allyship. And it's more and more allies, because it's the right time to be doing this.
Yeah.
The other sites that we're going to make and have, that will be from allyship too.
It's amazing. Yeah, you've reminded me of our connection to youth is so important.
Right.
but it's somewhere where we're trying to find our feet a little bit, just because of the way that our work flows. And, I know that our people sign up to help.
Yeah.
But we have proactive time and proactive programs and places where we can role model and be part of, team building and mentorship and all that. We'd love to spend so much more time doing that, because we see the power in making those connections. And, when I listen to you, gratitude is always centered, and I don't, I think that's innate. I think that maybe it's over time you just learn to always center it, but it is, I know you always talk about people who have got you to where you are, and your sense of and we know that there's a lot of young people in this community that don't have stability. They may not have role models, important, strong mentors like right around them to keep them grounded in every way. We want to broaden any connections we can make to young people. But it's like anything in life. We know that as adults, like, we probably get more out of it in the giving, in the listening, in the learning, and then you see people flourish, so it's really powerful to hear you say that's where your sights are as well.
Yes.
Because as much as we're looking on the horizon and into the future, we know that it's going to take us some time to build the generational trust and the strength that we need, to make this whole community stronger and better.
Exactly. And I really like that because, we look at probation, we look at when people make wrong decisions. I've made many of them in my life, and normally there was always repercussions for that. Sometimes it was community hours, sometimes it was probation, sometimes it was this and that. But wouldn't it be amazing if we could bring people back out to the land and have that reconnection as maybe one of their terms?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Kind of like what they're doing in Sweden and all these other countries where the doctors are writing prescriptions for people to go out to the land.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. I like that. I like that idea. And also bringing people together that when you talk about elders and young people as well, like, there's so much that can be gained through those transfers of wisdom and perspective. And when you put that justice lens on it, I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Mistakes, failures, they just come naturally to all of us, but we have to keep trying different and new things. Yeah, and that's what I see you and your team doing here is an openness to what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. We try new things. We're okay with it. A lot of people aren't. And but I think we're kind of used to it now.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to try new things, but it makes people nervous. It makes people nervous because we've never been here before.
Yeah.
But that's what we always have to keep talking about. We've never been here before. Kind of like our region and our city. So I wanted to ask you one thing.
Sure.
About the pulse of our community. And the only reason I'm asking you that, it's because I walk the dog every day, and I'm always listening to the news. I used to listen to music for like a very, very long time. And then once I started taking this role, I kind of said to myself, Clarence, you should really be up on the news, what's going on in your region. It's good for you. Yeah. So with listening to the news, I'm hearing that our community is kind of changing again.
Yeah.
So just more things. I don't know if that's coming from people who have decided to live here from the GTA and now they're commuting, and I just don't know. But I've noticed in the past year, some things are a bit highlighted more than others, and I don't want to really say them, but if you want to talk about things that have been going on.
Yeah, it's we're one of the fastest growing communities in Canada,
right?
And diversifying rapidly. Also coming out of the pandemic, we know that mental health is major challenges everywhere.
Right.
And so where we see those issues bubble up are in crime.
Yep.
and violence, more weapons than we've ever seen, a lot of trauma, and then when we see issues of addiction as well, layers of that. So we're not alone. We actually see it all across Canada. But when we think locally, people's sense of safety, their sense of connectedness, I think, and stress, a lot of stress. You start to put all these things together, the busyness of life, economic challenges.
Right.
It takes people away from, their center and who they are. And then all of a sudden you see bad outcomes and people having bad days. So, we know we have a lot of work to do, just as a community. And, the one thing that's been crucial for us is to try and advance this thing called the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan.
Okay.
And what it is meant to do, it is meant to focus us all as community leaders, as groups, as institutions, is to say, okay, what are our biggest problems and how do we tackle them together? And so we're just defining what our actions are going to be, but a strong focus on mental health and building better solutions, building important, safe, and inclusive spaces, and there's a reconciliation component to that about ensuring that everybody should be entitled to feel safe everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Looking at issues of intimate partner violence, gender-based violence. It's another focal point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other connections to youth and justice and so on. So that's where we are. I think that the only way to tackle any of these issues and to build a better sense of safety is to come together and hold our problems up and to draw as much strength and connection and collaboration as we can on all of them.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it and feel it happening, but it's going to take some time. Yeah. And, I could give you all the survey results, in terms of how people are feeling, what they're, but until everybody in every corner of this region, can say that they honestly are safe and feel safe, then our work is not done.
Right.
And, that takes us to be, sometimes courageous and hold some things up that are challenging, But what I do know is, and it kind of grounds us back to the purpose of us coming together, is when people make tough and bad decisions, poor decisions, issues of stress, and when I mentioned mental health, addictions, those kinds of challenges, it's desperation, it's often people, you've heard that hurt people hurt others, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where our lens is acknowledging that we have to find ways to break cycles, to put ourselves collectively on a better path. And my role is one of incredible power and privilege. And so it's like, how do we maximize this? How do I maximize this opportunity of a lifetime? But I look to leaders like you and others who have their hands out and say, okay, let's roll up our sleeves with our hands out and let's get down to work with an openness to, what's ahead of us. How do we get to that next better place?
For sure. And it's through meeting like this.
Yeah.
Having a starting point, bringing people together. I think this is a time of opportunity in our region. I think this is a time of opportunity in our creation. There's a lot of things that align with some of our prophecies that we hear that are kind of troubling us as Indigenous people, that we're getting warning signs. But I also think that this is a really good time for us to come together and to do something different, to look at alternative ways of meeting people's needs.
Yeah.
Because, I've always learned that when someone gets triggered, it's because a need isn't being met.
Yeah.
And that could be so many needs that we all have, but if we can meet those needs of those individuals who are struggling or being triggered, that's a starting point. and then we can start to build a foundation off of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I always just, it's always in the back of my mind about, you know, self-care with the police services.
Yeah.
And what are they doing? And I would just like to offer to let you know that, you know, we at Crochet Lodge have always had a plan to work and support you guys because of the work that you do, and we believe in the work that you do, and we need you, and I'm a helper.
Yeah.
Right?
That's amazing. I mean, we've learned so much in the past few years about, you know, essential services, or you know, what through the height of the pandemic, right, when things were at their limits, it was a lot of the helpers, it was the healthcare workers, it was the paramedics, it was the people providing food, serving, right, and so with us, I mean, we work with paramedics, we work with you know, firefighters, with healthcare, with other public servants, and there are things that you usually start these careers out optimistic, you know, full of piss and vinegar and a lot of energy, but over time, the continued exposure to trauma, to hardships, you know, to the problems. I'm sure you've heard of compassion fatigue.
Yes.
Right? Post-traumatic stress, obviously. And so the openness to talk about, I'm happy to say, is at the best place it's been.
Nice.
I think our people are coming in eyes wide open about, you mentioned self-care, work-life balance, finding ways to just take care of yourself in a healthier way.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to continue to expand the options, right, for people to find that grounding ability,
Right.
the detachment from the busyness of life. And so, you know, with your openness to think about what's possible in this space and others, I mean, that's an amazing thing to think about, of what's possible for our people. And that openness is amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about stepping outside of our comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you did it with that new building, because there's a change room in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right, let's talk about it.
There's a change room in there that I went into it. I was smudging, and I saw the door. I saw it was a change room.
Yeah.
Something stopped me.
Wow.
And then I spun around, and then I just blew some smoke in there. And then your assistant
Mm-hmm.
said, "No, Clarence, you need to come in here, and Ben, you need to come in here too.
Yeah.
And we need to smudge this area in a really good way."
Yeah.
And then there was some contact shared.
Yeah.
And I just was wondering, I don't think that has ever been done before. That's a big step, I think,
Yeah.
outside of your comfort zone and anybody's comfort zone.
Yeah. It's funny when you're planning for something like a building that we've just opened. We're trying for 50 years plus, right? Because that's the investment that you need to make. So what we would love to do is we'd love to reflect the community that we serve. That means we're only about 22% women as police officers.
Okay.
So 1 in 5. There are places in the world that are 30, 40, 50%. And 50%, that would be a great mix. So just on that alone, when we were starting to do some projections as to say, what walls do we build? How many lockers do we, put into a male-female traditional change room? We started looking at other models around the world. And a universal locker room was a concept that we were working with, trying to find a gender-neutral space.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've built is a huge locker room built, for the future, with individual shower and washroom and change spaces all around the perimeter.
Okay.
But also basically an open locker space where there are some zones that we have right now where people can declare if they want to be in one zone or another. But our grand vision is, in time, those temporary walls come down and everybody can come in as part of one team, one organization. And you go to your locker with a base layer of clothing, you put on your uniform with everybody in your team, whoever they are, any walk of life, and you come in and you leave together in that way. But you still have your own privacy, you still have your own dignity in a closed space, when you need it.
Okay.
it's different. It's new. It's against the norm. It's against the status quo. And it's one of those things in life where I think we've all been there. You need to see it and probably use it to believe it
Right.
and embrace it. But we've heard good feedback in just the initial phase of it. It'll take some time. But we hope it's the start of something. And if you allow me, one more thing to say is our vision is that you don't get to come to work and to go into a certain space and be somebody else that you're not out in another space. Right. You don't get to have a conversation in one corner. You come to work to be professional, to be courteous, respectful, and to share yourself with everybody the same way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the visions of locker room gossip, of what happened traditionally in a male-dominated profession in the past, we're trying to change and challenge that. Do we have it figured out? Do we have it perfect? Probably not. But we're trying. We're trying something new that we hope is best for everybody. And I'll let you know how it goes as we unveil it, moving forward. But our people are responsive, and change is hard, right?
Right.
Change is hard. Yeah.
But that analogy that you used of that locker room, that in time you hope the barriers come down, everybody has the mutual respect for everybody else, they can do their own thing, have their own autonomy and all of that stuff. Wouldn't that be great if we could roll that out to the community?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be an amazing model?
And that's exactly, when I mentioned something like, a community plan about safe and inclusive spaces, like those are words, those are thoughts and concepts, but when you root them in action and you try to raise the tide for everybody, like everybody should be entitled to that. Nobody in our society should feel less than. Nobody should feel that they're entitled to anything better or less, than anyone else. Then that's what we need to build together. And I think we have our eyes on it. It's a matter of, doing the work and proving we can sustain it. And there are major challenges right now, in terms of how we're bumping up against one another in a busy world, right? But I think we're up for it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Mark, I want to thank you for your time.
Thanks, Clarence. Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
I really love connecting with you. I really like getting to know you and seeing how we can move this community forward in a new, positive way that takes us all a little bit outside of our comfort zone.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
Hopefully it's one of many conversations. It's an honor to be here, an honor to know you.
Yes.
And your friendship means the world, and
Amazing.
We look forward to our bright future.
Amazing. And we wanted to give you a couple things from Crow Shield Lodge. It's got some ashes on it from the fire,
Love
but
it.
ashes are clean.
Yeah.
A toque and a hoodie, just because winter's coming up, and we wish you all the best.
It's incredible. I'm not a very cool dad, but
Okay.
I mean, going home today, I might, my boys might be a little jealous of the new swag.
Okay.
I offered you some police swag, and we'll have to negotiate that.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit more, because I don't know how that will be received, but it could be a start.
We will find a reciprocal gift, and it's part of our journey.
Amazing.
Thanks, Clarence.
All the best.
Thank you. Take
All
care.
right.
Yeah.